Okay, let's dive into some of the most mind-bending ideas out there. Wormholes, multiverses, and what I think is the most fascinating question of all, whispers between worlds. We're going to talk about shortcuts through the very fabric of space-time, the wild possibility of other realities, and the big one. Could we ever make contact? So, is there a shortcut across the universe? I mean, science fiction is absolutely obsessed with this idea, right? You've got your cosmic tunnels, your portals, instant travel across entire galaxies. But is that all it is? Just fantasy? Or is there any real science that suggests something like this could actually exist? Well, the answer, and this is pretty wild, is kind of yes. And the possibility comes directly from the equations of, you guessed it, Albert Einstein. His theory of general relativity, the one that tells us gravity is really just the bending and warping of spacetime, well, that theory itself cracks open a theoretical door to these incredible cosmic bridges. So let's talk about Einstein's spacetime shortcut. How does this even work, theoretically? Let's get into the nitty-gritty, the mechanics of building one of these shortcuts. You know, this whole idea has actually been kicking around for over a century. Way back in 1916, this Austrian physicist, Ludwig Flamm, was looking at Einstein's equations, and he theorized something called a white hole, basically the polar opposite of a black hole. Then, fast forward to 1935, and Einstein himself, working with Nathan Rosen, took that idea and ran with it. They proposed these bridges that could connect two different points in spacetime. And that's what we now call Einstein-Rosen bridges, or, wormholes. Okay, so the math says they can exist, but there's a huge problem. The theory also says they would collapse instantly. The sheer force of gravity would just slam the tunnel shut in a fraction of a second, way too fast for anything, not even a single particle of light to get through. So how do you solve that? Well, the only theoretical way to keep a wormhole from collapsing is to prop it open with something that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, exotic matter. And we're not just talking about something rare. This is a hypothetical substance that would have negative mass. It would basically push space-time apart, acting like anti-gravity. And the pressure needed? We're talking about a force greater than what you'd find in the core of a neutron star. Just mind-boggling. And to really put this into perspective, to really get a handle on the scale of this challenge, just listen to this. To create a stable wormhole, just 1/millionth the size of a single proton, you would need an amount of negative energy equal to what 10 billion suns put out in an entire year. The engineering challenge here is, well, it's beyond astronomical. All right, so we're moving beyond our universe now. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that we could somehow solve this monumental, maybe impossible challenge. Let's imagine we could build a stable wormhole. That leads to an even crazier question. Where would it go? Yeah, sure. A wormhole might just connect two places in our own universe. Zip you over to a distant galaxy in the blink of an eye. But what if it connected you to somewhere else entirely? A completely different universe? I mean, that's the truly wild part of this whole idea. So, how could there be other universes? Well, one of the most famous ideas is the quantum multiverse. It comes from something called the many worlds interpretation. The gist is, every time a quantum event has more than one possible outcome, the universe splits. A new universe is created for each possibility. So there's a universe where you took that job and one where you didn't. A universe where you turned left and one where you turned right. Every single choice, every possibility plays out in its own separate reality. Then you've got another contender, M-theory. This is one of the big ideas trying to be a theory of everything. It pictures our entire universe as just a 3D brain. Think of it like a giant sheet or membrane. And this sheet is floating in a much bigger, higher dimensional space. A space that could be filled with tons of other brains, other universes, all floating next to each other like pages in a giant cosmic book. Now here's where it gets really weird. For the math of M-theory to actually work, our reality needs to have 11 dimensions. Not the 4 we know, 3 of space, 1 of time, but 11. So where are the others? The theory says they're just curled up, super tiny, way too small for us to ever see or interact with. And if that framework is right, get this, there could be something like 10 to the power of 500 possible universes. That's a 1 with 500 zeros after it. I mean, you can't even write that number out easily. Each one with its own unique laws of physics. Our universe would just be one tiny possibility in this unimaginable cosmic landscape. So that leads to the next big section, whispers between worlds. If all these other universes are out there, right next door, in some higher dimension, you gotta ask, right? Could we ever talk to them? Could we ever communicate? People have come up with some really clever ideas. One of them revolves around gravity. See, there's this genuine puzzle in physics. Gravity is ridiculously weak compared to the other forces. I mean, a tiny fridge magnet can beat the gravity of the entire Earth. So why? One wild idea is that gravity isn't stuck to our universe, that it leaks across dimensions, and we're only feeling a tiny fraction of its true strength. But then the physicists come in with a kind of reality check. It's a fundamental, almost philosophical problem. By definition, a separate universe is something we are causally disconnected from. In other words, we can't affect it, and it can't affect us. Because think about it, if you could communicate with it, if you could send a message back and forth, in what way is it really a separate universe? Isn't it just a really weird, far-off part of our own? And that's the real roadblock, isn't it? You have all these awesome sci-fi ideas, like sending messages on gravity waves or using quantum entanglement to talk across realities. But then cold, hard physics steps in and says, nope, universes are causally disconnected. Entangled particles have to be in the same universe to work. It's a fascinating clash between imagination and the known laws of physics. Okay, so, Section 4, Searching for Cosmic Echoes. Maybe direct, two-way communication is off the table. By definition, it just might not be possible. But what if we change the question? What if we stop trying to have a conversation and instead we start looking for a cosmic echo, a footprint, a scar left behind from a long, long time ago? And believe it or not, this is real science. This isn't just a thought experiment. Cosmologists are actively searching for bubble collisions right now. They're doing it by looking at the cosmic microwave background, the CMB. That's the oldest light in the universe, basically the afterglow of the Big Bang. And they think if our bubble universe ever bumped into another one, it might have left a mark on that ancient light. So what are they looking for, exactly? Well, a collision with another bubble universe would have been this incredibly energetic event, and it would have left a very specific signature, a kind of bruise on the cosmos. It would look like a distinct disk-like pattern in that relic radiation. If they found one of those, that would be it. The first real, actual evidence that the multiverse is real. So what's the result? Well, so far, they found nothing. Cosmologists have scoured the data, they've developed amazing algorithms to look for these patterns, but as of now, there's no evidence of any such collision. The multiverse, for all its amazing theoretical power, is still just that, a theory. So this leads us to a really deep philosophical question. If other universes exist, if the many worlds idea is correct, does it change how we should act? I mean, if there's an infinite number of yous out there, and one of them is doing every possible thing you could do, does what this you does still matter? But there's a really powerful answer to that, and it's this. The right thing to do is the right thing to do, period. It doesn't matter what anybody else does in this universe or any other. You are in control of this life, this reality. What some other version of you does in another universe has no bearing on the choices you make right here, right now. And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. If we found proof, if we knew for certain that other universes exist, would it make us feel bigger or smaller? Would knowing we're part of this vast cosmic tapestry make us feel significant? Or would it just make us feel impossibly, terrifyingly small? It's something to think about.